I reviewed the first Frozen way back when I first started doing reviews. Initially, I thought the film was pretty mediocre, and that's still pretty much how I feel about the movie today. I'm not one to immediately jump on the Frozen hate train, but I failed to see it as either an incredible or overrated movie. I really like the animation. Love is an Open Door and For the First Time in Forever are two songs I genuinely liked. Anna is a great character, and the story was fine for the first half. However, it really fell apart in the second. The writing wasn't the best, plot holes were all over the place, and the other songs were really bad. Yes, I'm even including Let It Go in that regard. So it's because of my mixed reaction on Frozen that I was actually looking forward to the sequel. I was hoping it would be more serious and story-driven than before. Did it work? Well, all I'll say right now is, did it really get snubbed at the Oscars for not getting nominated? Meh. The film opens up with a flashback to when Elsa and Anna were little kids, where their father tells them the story of their grandfather establishing a treaty with the neighbouring tribe of Northuldra by building a dam in their homeland, the Enchanted Forest. But after a fight occurs, the grandfather is killed, the spirits disappear, and a wall of mist traps everyone. Years later, and by that I mean 3 years after the first one, Elsa begins to hear strange voices calling to her, unintentionally waking the spirits and disrupting Arendelle. So in order to set things right, Elsa, Anna, and their other friends venture off to find the truth about the kingdom's past. And believe me when I say what I just described to you about the plot is the simplest way to sum it up, because much like the first Frozen, it's filled with many types of plot holes that are more jarring to digest and far more complicated than they should be allowed. Now, to the first one's credit, despite all the plot holes it set up, at least it still had a story to tell about a princess trying to find her sister who has ice powers. But here they throw a bunch of plot details at you within just the first few minutes, and it remains this way throughout the whole movie. It's too filled with ideas and has no focus or layers built to make it consistent. For example, one big revelation this movie gets is that it finally explains how Elsa got her powers in the first one. It was simply a gift because her mother saved her father's life. Except, is it really a gift? When at all in the first Frozen did Elsa's powers ever benefit anyone outside of using it to defend herself? I mean, I know she was raised wrong as a result, but it seems a little weird that these ice powers are considered a gift and yet the parents are willing to hide Elsa from the rest of the world. We're talking about the same powers that practically almost killed Anna and potentially put an entire kingdom at risk of dying of hypothermia. I don't want them throwing this gift bull crap at me if you're not going to do anything else to justify how they benefit anyone. Also, they try throwing in a lot of Avatar-esque plot points at us by saying Elsa's powers were part of some fifth element or something, but you guys know that ice power is literally just the same as water, right? Ice is just frozen water. How did nobody notice this? Whatever stake this movie tries to introduce, it's quickly resolved in a few minutes, meaning they're not high enough to sustain my interest. Like, remember in the teaser trailer where Elsa was trying to run across a tidal wave? Gave you the impression she was trying to overcome a struggle. I was thinking, holy shit, this movie's gonna have some real emotional weight. But no, it's not properly built up and feels less exciting than it should be. This movie doesn't hesitate with clashing two different types of tones against each other just to create a confused narrative that feels like it's going nowhere. Not just that, the actual conflict going on with the spirits lost my interest really quickly. This not only leads to a climax that doesn't even feel like a climax, but it just made me question why this was never an issue until the fight only got more physical. There's no stakes involved to keep my interest long enough because by the second the problem is introduced, it's resolved in the easiest fucking way possible. From the first minute this movie began, it became insanely obvious where it was going to go and what the big message of the day was going to be. But by far the most frustrating element of the story, to me at least, is with the ending. I guess it's nice to say there's no twist villain this time around, even though at one point it seemed like they were going to do that, but now the trend is deciding to split up main characters before the movie's over. Ralph Breaks the Internet did it pretty badly, but Toy Story 4 did it great at least. I'm seriously considering whether this or Ralph 2's ending is worse. It's not set up properly, it comes off as forced, and doesn't get explored enough. As much as I hated Vanellope's decision for leaving her own game in Ralph 2, at least that aspect was given some attention so that it wasn't some end film decision. When in Frozen 2 did Elsa ever get the idea to live in the forest with the other spirits? I get that she doesn't fit in with Arendelle very well, but all the writers had to do was explore this element a little more. Let alone the fact that Anna now has to become queen and she doesn't react to it at all. I'm fine if they want to develop Elsa more, but it's too rushed. Oh, and I'm sorry to any die-hard Elsa fans out there, but even after how I felt about her in the first movie, I still don't like her. I was extremely hopeful she would be better handled in this one compared to the first Frozen, but what Elsa suffers this time around is that her conflicts are never really resolved. They have an internal conflict set up for her to commonly push people away from her, but it never feels like it was resolved. Instead, it feels more like as if Anna should just accept that Elsa will do this because she doesn't feel like she fits in. When it got to the point where Elsa actually pushed Anna and Olaf away just to explore the island on her own, it actually started to make me legitimately angry. The point is, Elsa is a character I want to like in this series, but I keep getting too frustrated with her to enjoy her. And the other characters aren't much better, honestly. Olaf is really annoying this time around. I didn't really mind him that much in the first movie since a lot of his dialogue was usually really quiet and he was just introduced halfway through. Here he's in it for a good chunk of the movie and he's really loud and painfully obnoxious. Yes, the one part of him doing this stage show of the first movie's events is really funny, but that doesn't say how much I wanted to burn him alive. And all the new characters this movie introduces just aren't very interesting, mainly because they don't get a lot to do. I felt like they were only on screen for about 10 minutes before being cut out of the second half for a good majority of the movie. The only character I felt actually got better was Anna. That's not much of a surprise, I know, but now she's grown past the whole loving someone in a single day shtick and feels more developed this time around. I like how they add more depth and flesh out Anna's character more to the point where she's more than just the one sister that doesn't have magical ice powers. But if I had to say one thing about this movie that is actually better than the original, it is without a doubt the music. Whereas the first movie had a few decent songs and then others that felt like slogs, this movie had more songs that I actually enjoyed more than outright hated. Kristoff has this boy band song which was great, Into the Unknown is a real jam, Show Yourself fits beautifully within the story, Anna's song is really nice. Probably the only song I didn't care for was Olaf, since it felt very similar to In Summer from the original. Otherwise, the songs are way better than in the first movie at least. So in conclusion, I can't really say Frozen 2 is good or bad, it's fairly in the middle. I admire the music, the animation is fantastic, some of the characters are good, and the voice acting is top-notch stuff, but this is all buried within a story that's trying to throw in too much for an overall narrative that I felt wasn't properly planned out. At the very least, it's not as much of a train wreck as Ralph Breaks the Internet, but it's a miracle that the first one actually managed to be better than this. If this and Ralph Breaks the Internet are anything to go by, it's that Disney should probably stay away from making sequels, since I feel they can't make sequels as good as DreamWorks or even Pixar. Sure, they may have done that decades ago, but you know something's wrong here when there's more good Disney DVD sequels than theatrical Disney sequels. If you enjoy it, then continue to enjoy it, but for now I'm gonna need some ice for my headache.